Our next guest is ready. I keep getting promised robots. I don't count my Roomba as one of those, but our next guest might be able to help with that. Please welcome to the stage Helen Greiner of CyPhy Works and our moderator, Frederic Lardinois.
All right, let's get a show of hands first. How many people here own a Roomba?
A few.
All right, there's 25 maybe. How many of you own a drone? The same number. How many of you have mounted a drone to your Roomba? Nobody yet.
No one.
Nobody yet. We'll get there, right? If you own a Roomba, you can thank Helen for that one.
And we appreciate it.
You founded iRobot in 1990, right out of MIT with co-founders. You left in 2008 after 18 years there. Why did you leave? Things were going well at iRobot, I thought.
It was going well. We'd taken it public. It was my dream come true. We got over 10 million Roombas out there, and robots for the military that saved the lives of thousands of, hundreds of soldiers and thousands of civilians. And it was my dream come true, but I didn't want it to be the only thing I did. And after 18 years, I like to say longest overnight success you'll ever see. But I thought I had another company in me, and that's the fun time when you're doing a startup, as many people in this room know.
Did you feel it in your blood that it was time to just go and do something else?
I think it was, yeah. 18 years is a long time to do one thing, but again, it was a wonderful, wonderful life experience.
Yeah, most startups don't last 18 years. When you left in 2008, did you know you wanted to do drones?
Yes, I knew I wanted to do drones because I was looking around at what's going on in robotics, and the place where you can make the most impact, have the most capability, is drones. Because if you look around this room, to get around with a drone, much, much easier than with a ground robot where you have the chairs and the cables and the people and the tables and everything. Over here it's almost free space, and the same outdoors, there's almost a superhighway just waiting for the drones.
At that time, though, drones were not really a thing, right? It's only the last kind of 2-3 years that we're talking about the DJIs and things like that. Why did you think in 2008 drones were already possible, and what did you see there? Oh,
it's because of those reasons I just mentioned. It's a way to cheat and get where you need to go very, very easily. Outdoors, above the treetops, above the telephone poles, it's really free space. You have to avoid a pesky plane once in a while, but in general, it's a big space and very small drones.
Was the technology there, though, in 2008 already?
The technology had just come about when you started doing GPS stabilization. So instead of needing a qualified pilot to fly, someone who'd really trained like a twitchy video game, you could set it and forget it, and the drone could just stay in one place automatically. And I saw that as the real key, which was going to make these things easy for everyone to fly, not just consumers, but people in industries. Companies don't like to train pilots and have to give them continuous training to have them go. They'd rather hire people, have their own employees be able to easily fly the drones and basically empower them.
Couldn't you have done that at iRobot too, though?
What's that?
Didn't iRobot has a lot of resources? Could you have done flying robots there?
We were having such success in the ground robots, the Roomba, and the robots that go into dangerous environments on the ground, that it would have been a stretch to jump in and create a drone company. There's a lot of robotics technology that I'm bringing to the drone industry, but there's also a lot of, that's really drone technology. The aerodynamics, the control systems for drones are very specific. So it really is its own thing.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit about the drones you have on the market right now. They are different from most of the drones that people here are probably thinking about because they're tethered. Why is that? And maybe talk a little bit about those 2 drones you have on the market.
Well, we have two drones. One is the PORC. It's Persistent Aerial Reconnaissance and Communications. And when I talked to customers about the problems with using the drones, what they told me was they're great, but they only last like 20 minutes, the ones that are easy to fly. And so what we did was we put it on a tether so the drone can go up and stay up. And from that vantage point, you can get a bird's eye view of an entire facility. So it's kind of like a near-Earth satellite system, except it's real time, high definition, and it always stays exactly where you want it rather than moving around. And it doesn't get flummoxed by cloud cover and other things.
How high can they go?
It could go to 500 feet
All right.
and stay there, for, we've flown 100 hours.
The other drone you have is the Pocket Flyer. It's a really small one. It's also tethered, right? But
Yeah.
it's more agile. What's the thinking behind that?
Well, we started CyPhy Works to build these larger drones that go into buildings first to help soldiers and police officers and people stay at a safer standoff distance. But the feedback from the market was, this is great, we'll take some, but if you made one that fit in our cargo pants pocket, we'll take a ton of them. We want one for every soldier. We want one for every police officer. And so that's what we decided to attack, and that's our Pocket Flyer drone. And the idea is it's on a tether, so you don't have to worry about time of flight. It's this big, so without the tether, it would last like 10 minutes. And when it goes into a building without a tether, it would lose line of sight. So the tether is really an enabling technology, not just a constraining technology.
Not every police officer has a drone just yet,
Not
right?
yet, not yet.
How close are you to that?
Well, we have a strategic relationship with Motorola Public Safety, and they're the guys that provide most of the police equipment, and we're hoping to leverage that to get drones to all the police officers and firefighters and SWAT teams around not just the country, but the world.
Right. Seems like the kind of enterprise drone business is going well for you. You've raised about 12.5 million so far. You raised another round this year. Where you? How much did you raise this year? You did a Draper Nexus round this year,
we
I
raised 3.5 million this year.
Okay. So you've got a good amount of money in the bank at this point. What does your research focus on right now?
Well, we've been looking at the consumer drone space. We've been looking, a lot of the drones that are out there, they tilt to fly, and then they have a fancy pan tilt roll gimbal underneath that takes out the tilt. So we thought that's a little backwards. If we could just fly levelly, and then we could put the camera into the system and make it much simpler. And simplicity in mechanical design is really, really good. Complexity is the enemy. So we've been looking at a whole different drone design that makes it much more rugged and much more portable. And I think we're really onto something. I think this is the way drones will be built in the future.
Well, I think we have one of those here, and I hope we can get one onto the stage. Just one moment. We're going to try not to get killed by the drone in the next 5 minutes.
So you can see how it's flying completely levelly instead of tilting into the motion. And anytime you can replace mechanical complexity with computation, we consider that a really good thing. So that's our level 1 drone.
Very nice. Don't I get some benefits from a gimbal that hangs underneath it, though?
You can. We still have to use electronic image stabilization in the camera because we still do get some jittering, but those large macroscopic motions, there's no real need to take them out. Now, we believe that simplicity of flight is the key. With our drone, you're just flying the camera, and you have to be able to control the shot. You don't want to set up like a movie maker where you've got every shot planned and you have to script everything. You really want to see something and be able to get that shot immediately, and that's the kind of system we've created with the level 1.
Looking at these consumer drones, there's quite a few competitors on the market already. fair to say, I think. There's DJI, 3D Robotics, Unique, they all have a lot of money. Do you think that's enough of a distinguishing kind of feature to compete with these guys?
I believe there is, because I think that what our consumers tell us is they want the small size, they want the less mechanical complexity. We talk to a lot of people that fix drones, and it's always the gimbal system that goes bad. They're very complex systems because they're tilting a camera, and all the wiring for the camera has to go through this fairly complex multiple degrees of freedom. You know, again, anytime you can replace mechanical complexity with math and computation and the electronic image stabilization, we believe that's a good thing. So I believe that the drones will morph into designs like this over time. Now the level up is proprietary, but you can...
Right. The hardware is one side of the business, right? There's another side of when it comes to flying drones, it's the software side. 'Cause, this one's controlled through an iPhone, if I remember it right. It's hard to fly a drone usually. I've crashed many of them, and I know what I'm talking about. What are you doing to make that easier? Because if you want everybody to be able to fly.
We let people fly from their iPhones, and that's a workflow, or their Android machines, their cell phones. That's a workflow that people are used to these days. You're used to just trying to positioning yourself, your field of view in a picture, in a map, or you're used to a swipe to fly type of a interface, and that's what we have on the level 1. So instead of learning how to fly with these fairly complex joysticks, we're making it easy for people to understand how to fly right from their cell phones. And it also goes to the portability. You probably have your cell phone with you when you leave the house. You have the smaller drone with you when you leave the house. In fact, we're going to make it a little smaller than this winch with 6-inch props, not 7-inch props. And you know, put it right in your backpack, have your phone with you, and you're good to go. Because I like to say the best drone is the one you have with you, and this will be a really fully functional, capable drone. You know, high-resolution camera, full frame rate, but in a small, very, very rugged package.
One of the coolest features I saw was the geofencing feature that you have. You haven't talked about that yet, but I think it's a... What is that?
So one of the features we put on the drone we call geofencing, and instead of having to figure out how to put a fence up in a map, you basically just walk the area where you want the drone to stay. And you know, when you do that first flight, some people we found are a little intimidated that it might end up in a tree or it might end up in the neighbor's yard. And if you walk a geofence first, the drone will always stay in that boundary. And then we'll also be connecting it to keep out zones, like with AirMap.io, another startup company that's making a database of where you can't fly. For example, the White House. You're not allowed to fly on the White House, although I took my drone to the White House.
You didn't fly it onto the lawn, though, when you were drunk
I didn't fly it
right?
into the lawn over the fence. You're not allowed to do that. And by interfacing to AirMap.io, we'll be able to help users understand where they're not allowed to fly. The FAA also puts out alerts, like for the forest fires. I think many people didn't know that it was dangerous to fly near forest fires, and they, you know, they were flying the drones and they were hindering the rescue operations because the fire helicopters couldn't fly because they were afraid they might hit a drone. So notifying the users that, you know, they shouldn't be flying in that area. Now that won't catch the rogue user, but I think most people understand you know, they don't want things to burn down.
Well, the good thing is it wasn't one of your drones that was flying there, because we've been talking about this as if it's on the market, but it's not quite ready yet to be released, right?
No, it'll be on the market next year. We did a Kickstarter, which was very successful, and built a community of people giving us advice and information about what they wanted to do with their drone and how they would use it, which, you know, I think is a great benefit to the company.
Was that the main reason you did a Kickstarter? Because you are a pretty well-funded company. You don't need pre-sales necessarily.
You know, the old way to do things, you know, And what we did with the Roomba was, we built it in the back for many years, and we did some focus groups, and then, a few years later, you throw it onto the market and hope for the best. And, the more modern way to do things is to, put it out there, say, hey, we got a new idea, see if there's an interest, and it turns out there was, and then solicit what else would you want in your drone. And we've been able to do that through building a Kickstarter community.
How many pre-sales did you have on Kickstarter?
Oh, it's like 1,500.
Well, it's a good number. This drone is called the Level 1.
Yeah.
What happens when you reach Level 2?
Well, we're really hard at work building the Level 1 right now. The Kickstarter, this is a prototype system. To get something into production does take some time. It takes a lot of work. There's a big difference. I like to say robot videos are a dime a dozen, maybe robot demos are $1 a dozen, but real produced robots, they're very infrequent in the world. And it does take a great effort to get there, and that's what we're really focused on right now.
Sure. All right, you've been doing this for 7 years now. You were at iRobot for 18, so you've got a few more years left. Where do you see CyPhy works in 10 years from now?
Well, I say definitely in the drone space because it is so powerful and so impactful. I believe, I'll put up my hand and say, I believe in delivery drones. You will be getting your packages delivered. You will be getting your pizza delivered with drones, and I believe they will be CyPhy Works drones.
CyPhy Works pizza delivery drones? Is that what we should?
We wouldn't set up the pizza shop. We want to be the Boeing
Right.
of drones rather than the people that run the services.
Do you believe in the idea of drone delivery?
I do. Because, from a technical point of view, we can do it. It will take some regulatory and some cultural changes. And I believe the FAA is right not to allow it today, but if they would allow more experimentation towards getting there, that would be a great benefit to the community. But it will come over time, and they have signaled that they're very open to changing the rules. For example, not needing line-of-sight operation once you prove that it's safe. And you really should have to prove that it's safe when you're carrying a 5-pound payload over a populated area. But we can, because helicopters fly over populated cities day in and day out, and nobody pays any mind to them.
All right, I'm looking forward to getting my pizza delivered by your drones then.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.